The disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Epstein took his own life while behind bars here in New York City while facing charges of sex trafficking.
Committed suicide? What? How is that possible?
A financier and sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein died in his cell on August 10, 2019, after being arrested for the sex trafficking of minors. His death was ruled as a suicide, according to a medical examiner. However, several skeptics dispute this finding. Because of his suspicious ties to powerful individuals, many believe that Epstein, in fact, did not kill himself.
Before I begin, I'd like to briefly address news from the Manhattan Correctional Center over the weekend regarding Jeffrey Epstein. We are now learning of serious irregularities at this facility that are deeply concerning and demand a thorough investigation.
After Epstein's death, his brother, Mark Epstein, hired the renowned forensics expert, Dr. Baden, to relook at the autopsy. Through his re-examination, he made an overwhelming discovery that was missed in the first autopsy. Jeffrey Epstein's hyoid bone, which is located under the lower jaw, had 3 fractures, which indicates that Jeffrey Epstein could not have died due to hanging. When a person dies from being hung by the neck, the hyoid bone has a 73% chance to remain completely intact. There is only a 27% chance of a fracture occurring, meaning it is highly unlikely that this bone would even have 1, yet alone 3 fractures if he committed suicide by hanging.
You do not get those 3 fractures with a suicidal hanging of someone leaning forward. So where, again, is the force that would have been required to produce those fractures from kneeling forward? I can say I've never seen it myself in all of my autopsies. I would say to have these 3 fractures in that kind of a suicidal hanging would be extremely rare, extremely rare.
What was recorded from his initial cause of death was completely different from what the renowned forensic expert Dr. Baden uncovered. But why would the original mortician miss such a crucial piece of evidence relating to his cause of death? The answer is simple. Even though Jeffrey Epstein's death looked to be modeled after a suicide, it has been recorded that pedophiles like Epstein are more likely to be methodically killed by other inmates.
An inmate at Corcoran State Prison has confessed to the murders of 2 other inmates last month. 41-year-old Jonathan Watson confessed in a letter that he clubbed both men to death with a cane on January 16th. He wrote that his reasons for the attack were because those 2 inmates he killed were child molesters. Watson claims he had altercations with the men in prison and had told a prison counselor prior to the incident that he might become violent. He says that counselor ignored him. 2 hours later, he attacked those 2 inmates.
Jonathan Watson methodically attacked and killed both inmates, understanding what they were convicted of and planned their deaths accordingly. It wouldn't be hard to figment that Jeffrey Epstein suffered a very similar, possibly more choreographed fate, as he was infamous for abusing, molesting, and trafficking children, thus making him worthy of a more methodical death. At this point, it is clear that Jeffrey Epstein was indeed killed, and it would not be far-fetched to say that it was staged or planned. But for those who still do not believe his death was by homicide, ask yourself this. If he walked before, that means there was a chance that he could walk again. So why would he commit suicide before even receiving his hearing? If Epstein had made it to his hearing and got sentenced to life in prison, him committing suicide would make complete sense. But that was not the case. Jeffrey Epstein was a powerful man and knew powerful people, which would allow him a way to mitigate his sentence as he did before in 2008. It's doubtful that he would intentionally end his life without even trying to reduce or diminish his sentence, as he had success in the past when it came to walking away from detrimental charges nearly unscathed. Due to the overwhelming evidence providing that it was a homicide, it is hard to fathom that Jeffrey Epstein's death was indeed a suicide. No one knows who really killed him, but whoever it was, they were either very skilled or a person of higher power.